I absolutely should not use the term debt-free living in this video because I actually have zero intention to pay off our mortgage in 7 years because paying off $1 million home in 7 to 10 years is just a decade of a lifestyle that I never want to live. So, what do we call what we're doing? Living a mostly debt-free lifestyle, debt-free but the home, half-assed debt freedom. But seriously, today I wanted to discuss our weird and somewhat unconventional debt payoff plan. And if you're new to these parts, here in the Valencia household, we do not use the debt snowball to pay off our debt. And we're actually saving to buy a home and saving for retirement, all while heading towards debt freedom. So let's go over our totally different debt payoff method. And I want to walk you through our plan to be debt free in detail, because that's the way I like to do it. Hi, I'm Wendy Valencia. So, how long will it take us to be debt free, not including our mortgage? If you don't want to watch a long, drawn out video with numbers and scenarios, here's the short version: a really, really long time. But seriously, like many of you, our situation is weird and we have multiple things going on at the same time and lots and lots and lots of goals we want to accomplish. So, how is our situation weird? First of all, we don't currently actually own a home. We're living in this house with my parents, but they're moving into a retirement community and we'll need to either buy this home in about 18 months or rent in another school district. Then, on top of that, my husband Mauricio is in the process of changing careers. He's currently taking architecture classes at our local community college in a feeder program, which will feed him into Virginia Tech for graduate school in architecture. And so, our plan is to not take out a single cent in debt and get him all the way through that program if we can. And on top of that, we're making our minimum matches to our 401ks for retirement so that we will be having a nice, awesome, stable retirement when we decide that we're too old to work anymore. So we're doing all of that while we are paying off the last of our ridiculous amounts of debt, and might I dare say redonkulous amounts of debt. So how much is a redonkulous amount of debt, you ask? Well, the short answer, a lot. We've actually already paid off over $200,000, but we have a significant amount to go still. It's right around this point that people start typing down in the comments when they hear that we've paid off over $200,000 in debt. Wendy, how in the world could you have so much debt? Well, honestly, that's a question I ask myself almost every single day. But seriously, when I first started this channel, I did a whole video on that and it's super cringy, so don't judge. It was like my third video or something. And it's always linked down in the description box under frequently asked questions. So go scroll down after this video is over and check that out if you want to know more information about that. So before I go over our plan, I actually have to talk about what we have left debt-wise. And this is as of when I was pulling the numbers together. Our first debt is our CarMax car loan. And as of today, we owe $9,519.93. And it is really, really nice to finally have that under $10,000. But it'll be a lot nicer when it's actually completely paid off. Our second debt is the USAA loan. And as of this moment, we owe $36,442.59. Our third debt is Mauricio's undergraduate school loan. And this is where it starts to get really painful because we still owe $50,257.92. And as you can see, that has actually been put into deferment because Mauricio is taking 2 classes a semester right now. So technically by the school loan program, considered to be going to school sufficiently enough to automatically put him into deferment. And after that, we have my brother and sister-in-law's school loans as well. And if you're not aware of what's going on with that, the Reader's Digest version is that basically we sponsored them to come to the United States to go to school. In fact, our largest debt of $140,000 was to actually pay for English immersion classes for 1 year for them. And after that, they started college and we co-signed on their school loans. And after a year and a half on a trip back to Colombia, Colombia had updated their passport. So my sister-in-law had to get a new passport. And when she went to get her student visa transferred from her old Colombian passport to her new Colombian passport, they actually revoked her student visa and her tourist visa, like right then and there on the spot. I don't know. We honestly have no idea why it happened. We have our theories, but we really don't know for sure. So she couldn't even come back to get her stuff. So she actually stayed down there while her husband finished out the semester, and then he moved back. And since Colombian salaries are so much lower than US salaries, there's really no way they will ever be able to pay a US school loan back. So it's ours to pay. And, you know, that is kind of one of the hazards of co-signing a loan. You have to assume that something will happen and you're going to pay for it. And we kind of knew that there was always that possibility. So while upsetting, it wasn't at all shocking. So my brother-in-law's school loan is $21,257.46, and my sister-in-law's school loan is $18,491.48. And both of those loans will come due on June 23rd, 2022. So that leaves us with a grand total of $135,969.38, which I know for most of you is a redonkulous amount of debt, but keep in mind, we started with so much debt that this last pile is kind of a walk in the park. So last week, we finally settled on our current plan. And as you all know, we have always used what we call self-imposed minimums on our debt payments. That means we set our own minimum payment and we don't go below that amount ever. Our current self-imposed minimums are $465 for the car and $1,200 for the USAA loan, and $185 for Mauricio's school loan, which is actually the real minimum payment for Mauricio's school loan. And the other two student loans haven't come due yet, so we haven't started paying on them, so I'm not even sure how much those are going to be, but we expect them to be, you know, in the 200s range. But for now, the total of what we're actually paying on is $1,850. So our new plan, starting in August, we are going to raise those self-imposed minimum payments to $2,000. Why, you ask? Because, you know, I like to operate in whole round numbers. So the big debate is that since Mauricio's school loan is now in deferment, should we pay on it or not? Now, interesting thing about school loans is that when they put them in deferment, they pick a new due date, okay? Which is 5 years exactly from the date of deferment. And they do that for each individual loan. And then they send you a letter telling you if it's subsidized or unsubsidized and how much it's going to add to your loan in interest. For unsubsidized loans, when they're in deferment, the US government pays the interest. And in deferment for unsubsidized loans, the interest gets added to the total balance that you owe. So we got a letter for each loan, and surprisingly, we had a lot of subsidized loans. And in the 5 years that Mauricio could be in deferment, we will basically be paying around $4,000 more in interest, which sounds like a lot until you start breaking it down by monthly interest over time, because that settles right around $67. And how did I arrive at $67? Because 5 years is a total of 60 months, and 4,000 divided by 60 months is 67 per month in interest you're accumulating. And if you compare that with the USAA loan and last month, My interest payment was $293.88. And once you do that, it really becomes a no-brainer. So armed with these numbers, our current plan is to take that $2,000 self-imposed minimum and focus on two debts, the car loan and the USAA loan. We'll pay $1,200 to the USAA loan and $800 to the car loan. If we do that, we will have the car paid off in July of 2020 and the USAA in the September of 2021, which is arguably a lot longer than we would have if we were focusing all our money on our debt. We would be easily done by next summer, but we wouldn't be able to buy this house and we wouldn't be contributing to retirement. That means with this plan that once Mauricio graduates from grad school and has a nice stable job again, this time in architecture, you will probably see us go hog wild for a few months because let's be honest, we're gonna have a crazy tight budget while he is in school to make this all work because he's going to have to quit his job eventually. And we generally freak out after really tight budgets for a few months. We've always done that. And I don't know that there's anything horribly wrong with loosening the belt every once in a while. But then after the debauchery is over, we will start to pay off again. This time we'll go with the two school loans, Mauricio's school loan and my in-laws' school loan. Well, technically it's three people's school loans, but I have ours and theirs in my head. And after we buy this house, you will actually likely see us move our in-laws' loans over to some sort of HELOC being a home equity line of credit, because we'll already have around 30% in equity in the house, and their loans, my in-laws' loans, are at a significantly higher interest rate than a HELOC. And if we already owe the money, it doesn't really matter where we have to pay it, right? Because it's not like we're going to go run out and get more debt after that. So now what are we doing about the house down payment? Well, we need to have 5% down because we're taking out our mortgage with Navy Federal, and they offer the best rate for a jumbo mortgage with only a minimum of 5% down. And at Navy Federal, you never pay PMI, so I don't have to worry about having 20% down. So that'll be $37,500 that we will need to save up just for the down payment. And then we will also need to pay closing costs, which is about another $20,000-ish. So when it's all said and done, we will need about $57,500 to get into this house. So going into this month, we will have $8,933.72, $8,933.72 saved in our buy the house fund. And our plan is to save an additional $2,000 to $3,000 a month toward that, aiming for $3,000, but being okay as long as it's $2,000. So for maths purposes, let's say we put $3,000 every month, because some months will be well over $3,000 and some months will be under. So on an average, we'll probably put $3,000. So $57,500 minus $8,933.72 leaves us with $48,566.28. If we divide that total by $3,000, then it means that in 16.2 months, we will have the money for the down payment and closing costs. And that's actually right on target with our plan. So now I have discussed over and over that my parents may need to move sooner rather than later. And since my mother is doing so incredibly well after her hip replacement, that's looking like less and less of a necessity. So we can go back to focusing on the end of the year 2020. But should something happen and be emergency, and they need to go right away, we are already 1 full month ahead and do have around $10,000 in sinking funds, which will just continue to increase over time. So that would be an additional like $20,000 to $24,000 that we could pull immediately if we absolutely had to. But honestly, I'd avoid that at all costs if I can. So we will be putting $2,000 towards debt and $3,000 towards the house down payment, which if you look at our history of payment is smack like right around what we've been hitting all along. We've had higher and lower months for sure, but overall it averages out. So what will we do with any extra? Well, that's completely up in the air right now. Personally, I'm leaning towards putting it on debt and paying off those faster than we planned so we can go ahead and get those 2 loans done right about the same time that we're actually buying the house, which honestly I think is completely doable, because if you look at like June 2017, when Mauricio started the job that he has now, on average from that point forward, we put at least $5,000 a month towards debt every single month, except for those random weird months, like when the government decides to shut down, or September. September is always kind of a disaster for us. Now, keep in mind, it's not going to be as high as it was in these previous months, obviously, because we do now have other financial commitments. We're putting money towards retirement again every month, and we have to pay for 2 classes for Mauricio every semester, which ends up being right around like $1,300 over 3 months. But all of the extra aside from that can go to debt pretty easily. So I'll see you in the next one. See ya. We're out.